This page is the front cover of a magazine. It's a special strategy guide issue for Fura no Shiren 2, which is known as Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, in English fan translations, as it was not released outside of Japan. The cover highlights news about the upcoming Nintendo GameCube and Game Boy Advance, and mentions experiencing Nintendo's new era at Space World. Games listed on the cover include Paper Mario, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, and Mario Tennis 64. There is also a smaller mention of Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum. This page is the contents page for the magazine, highlighting the focus on the upcoming GameCube and Game Boy Advance launch, referring to it as Nintendo's new era. It features an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto and Hiroshi Konishi. The contents are divided into sections for Nintendo GameCube, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo 64, and Game Boy, including game previews and articles. Game Boy Advance games mentioned are Mario Kart Advance, Golden Sun, Mega Man Battle Network, Napoleon, Kururin Paradise, and Silent Hill Play Novel. Nintendo 64 games highlighted are Mario Party 3, Dance Dance Revolution with Mario, Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth, Banjo-Tooie, Mickey's Speedway USA, Pokémon Stadium 2, Animal Crossing, and Custom Robo V2. Game Boy games listed include The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Ages. There is a feature on Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle. The page also lists regular magazine sections such as Rumor Research Institute, Hot Game Preview, News 64 Clip, and strategy guides for Paper Mario, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, and Mario Tennis. The index lists software available in this issue, and platforms including N64, SFC, GBA, and GB. A small cartoon strip is included showing a character looking for something in a drawer. This page is advertising Pokemon communication cables for the Game Boy series. It highlights cables with Pikachu and Togepi themes, alongside customizable character kits featuring Pokemon like Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile. The advertisement emphasizes using these cables for battling and trading Pokemon, and states the character parts are interchangeable. Prices are listed at 980 yen for the character kit cable and 1,980 yen for the Pikachu and Togepi cables. The next page is a contents page for a Nintendo magazine focused on Nintendo's next generation. It asks, what is the ultimate 2D game machine? And features questions about the purple GameCube controller and why 2 3D sticks. The page highlights an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto and Hiroshi Imanishi on page 8, Nintendo GameCube on page 10, Game Boy Advance on page 18, Nintendo 64 on page 32, Mobile System GB on page 45, and Game Boy on page 46. The page uses the phrase, Space World Feeling, and includes screenshots that seem to be from Zelda games to promote Nintendo's upcoming consoles and games. This page is introducing the new era of Nintendo, showcasing both the Nintendo GameCube and Game Boy Advance consoles. It highlights Shigeru Miyamoto discussing the future of the NGC, which is the Japanese name for GameCube. The page mentions that these new consoles, GameCube and Game Boy Advance, are the new hardware that people have been waiting for, and they were revealed around September 24th. The text suggests these are brand new and innovative hardware from Nintendo, marking a new era for gaming in the 21st century. The page also poses the question, what is the best home game console? And promises to introduce everything about the new Nintendo era. Images include former Nintendo president holding a Game Boy Advance and Miyamoto discussing the GameCube's future. This page is a feature interview with Shigeru Miyamoto discussing the GameCube and Nintendo's future direction. Miyamoto describes the GameCube as a powerful console, aiming to be overwhelmingly better than previous systems like the Super Famicom and Nintendo 64, but stresses that the focus is on creating entirely new and fun game experiences rather than just chasing enhanced graphics. He explains the choice of the 8cm disc format is primarily for copy protection and to keep game sizes manageable, expressing concern that larger capacity media could lead to longer loading times and negatively impact the game experience. Miyamoto emphasizes that gameplay and fun are paramount, and Nintendo isn't interested in getting into a pure technical specification battle. He mentions the development of 3D games and the importance of polygon movement, implying that future GameCube titles will prioritize engaging gameplay and fun. He also expresses confidence in overcoming potential loading time issues. This page is a key-man interview with Mr. Imanishi, the head of public relations, discussing the future of Nintendo. He talks about the GameCube's strategy, focusing on being user-friendly for game creators and aiming for a simpler approach rather than just cutting-edge technology. He mentions that the GameCube development environment is easier for third-party developers, and they want creators to feel this. The discussion also touches on the Game Boy Advance, mentioning that the hardware is complete and software development is progressing well. They aim to release it by March 21st and will focus on securing enough stock of the popular GB colors. Mr. Imanishi emphasizes that Nintendo wants to propose new and fun ways to play. This page introduces the Nintendo GameCube, highlighting it as the next-generation console from Nintendo. The page focuses on Nintendo's strategy and the actual situation surrounding the GameCube's release, comparing it to the N64. A table details the announcement and release schedule for both consoles, as well as their estimated and actual prices. For the N64, it notes the initial announcement at Space World in November 1995, the planned April 1996 release, and the actual release in June 1996. The N64 was priced at 25,000 yen, which was below the initially targeted $250 price point. The GameCube is listed with a planned release of July 2001, announced in August 2000, but the actual release date and price are still to be determined at the time of this article. This page introduces the Nintendo GameCube as the Nintendo New Era. It features a detailed breakdown of the console from various angles: front, back, top, bottom, and sides. The page highlights key features, like the 4 controller ports and 2 card slots on the front, the ports and power input on the back, and the power, reset, and open buttons on the top. Release dates are announced as July 2001 for Japan and October 2001 for the USA, with the price still to be determined at the time of publication. This page is a hardware analysis of the Nintendo GameCube, diving deep into its technical specifications. It highlights 2 key components: the IBM-made Gecko MPU, the main processor, and the Flipper system LSI, which handles graphics and data management. The Gecko MPU is praised for its high speed and low power consumption, achieved using cutting-edge 0.18 micrometers copper wiring technology. It also boasts a large L2 cache integrated within the chip itself, a significant point for game consoles of the time, allowing for efficient data handling between the CPU and memory and boosting performance. The Flipper system LSI is described as the heart of the GameCube, responsible for polygon rendering, sound processing, main memory, and managing data flow to and from the Gecko processor. A key feature of Flipper is its adoption of 1TSRAM memory technology, previously used in the PlayStation 2, allowing for faster and more efficient memory access by integrating the memory directly into the chip. The page also touches upon network connectivity, showcasing the modem adapter and broadband adapter for the GameCube, highlighting Nintendo's preparation for online gaming. The modem adapter uses analog phone lines for 56 kbit per second communication, while the broadband adapter is for faster communication, anticipating the upcoming era of online gaming. This page is about the Nintendo GameCube and its development, highlighting its features and improvements over the Nintendo 64. A pie chart shows developer opinions on GameCube development, with the majority interested if development costs are low and the environment is conducive. A significant portion are keen to try it, while others are waiting to see or considering costs and development environment. The page discusses GameCube's 1TSRAM memory, emphasizing its speed and efficiency compared to the N64's memory, resolving performance issues. It explains the GameCube's dedicated disc format, an 8 cm compact disc holding 1.5 gigabytes, twice the capacity of a CD-ROM. This format is highlighted as suitable for game development and size of the console. The article mentions the use of CAV, constant angular velocity, for the disk drive, ensuring fast game loading and comfortable play. Connectivity and expansion options are also mentioned. The page shows images of connection ports like the D-terminal cable for high-quality video output, a digital card memory, and an SD digital card adapter, showcasing the system's versatility. Screenshots compare the visuals of Super Mario 64 on N64 with Mario 128 on the GameCube, showcasing the GameCube's enhanced processing power with more detailed graphics and numerous Mario characters on screen compared to the N64 version. The caption under the Mario 128 screenshot indicates the lower bar demonstrates the machine power's capacity, implying greater power in GameCube, while the Super Mario 64 caption mentions full machine power being used. The next page highlights the Nintendo GameCube controller, emphasizing its unique design and player-friendly approach. It details the L trigger, noting its now analog input, Unlike the N64's digital version, the Z button, positioned at the back of the controller, is mentioned as a feature carried over from the N64 trigger setup. The R trigger is described as functionally similar to the L trigger, designed for comfortable pressing. The 3D stick, inherited from the N64, is moved to a more user-friendly location, improving stability during operation. The D-pad is located in a smaller space, described as for supplementary controls alongside the 3D stick. The C-stick is an analog input type, intended to be used in combination with the 3D stick for dual analog control. Finally, the A button is at the center, surrounded by B, Y, and X buttons, with button usage changing depending on the game. The page also introduces the Wavebird wireless controller for the GameCube, described as a wireless version of the standard controller, emphasizing the removal of cords for a comfortable play environment, mentioning a receiver unit connects to the console. This page delves into the details of the GameCube controller. It highlights that Miyamoto demonstrated the controller and confirmed it includes a vibration sensor. It also explores the keystick and questions whether it will be used for camera control, referencing its use as C buttons on the N64, mainly for camera angle changes, suggesting it might serve a similar purpose on the GameCube, possibly demonstrated in a demo of a game called Near's Party, where camera angles were easily changed. The page also features feedback from software houses on their impressions of the GameCube, with a pie chart showing that a significant portion were surprised or felt it was new. Another section looks at the history of Nintendo controllers, showcasing the Famicom, Super Famicom, Virtual Boy, and Nintendo 64 controllers and their release dates. Finally, the page discusses the 5 color variations available for the GameCube console and controller: silver, gold, black, red, and blue, emphasizing their stylish design, and examines expected pricing for the GameCube, with a pie chart showing price point expectations from software houses, with the majority anticipating a price of 20,000 yen or less. This page is showcasing the GameCube's potential with impressive software demonstrations. It highlights the visual quality and smooth animation capabilities of the GameCube through early footage of games featuring characters like Link battling Ganondorf in what is potentially from a Zelda game. Another section emphasizes the sheer number of Mario characters that can be rendered simultaneously on screen, pointing to the power of the system. Lastly, it hints at a spooky mansion setting for a Luigi game, showing Luigi encountering ghosts, suggesting a potential for atmospheric and visually rich experiences on the GameCube. The page emphasizes the excitement and potential impact of the GameCube's software lineup. This page is announcing the lineup of games showcased at Space World, highlighting a Nintendo New Era experience. The headline mentions a simultaneous release of 5 titles for the N64. Examples of games being shown are mentioned such as Wave Race, Star Wars, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, and potentially Metroid. The page discusses the development of the GameCube, quoting Nintendo's PR manager, who stated that the GameCube development is being handled internally and with second-party developers. They aim to launch the GameCube with 5 titles, and these games will be revealed at the E3 show next May. Capcom's Biohazard Zero, known internationally as Resident Evil Zero, is announced for the GameCube. There are screenshots from what appears to be a Metroid game, raising the question, Metroid? And text describes a monster infestation in the depths and the energy absorption of Metroid. Another section features screenshots of Meowth from Pokemon in Nyarth's Party, showcasing it as a simple party game, utilizing the N64's capabilities. A pie chart shows the results of a survey on preferred game pricing, with 5,000 yen being the most popular price point. The accompanying text discusses user opinions on game prices, mentioning that while cheaper is better, users also want Nintendo to set appropriate prices to compete with PlayStation. The next page is introducing the Game Boy Advance, stating its release date is March 21st. It highlights key features of the new handheld, including the expansion connector for peripherals, though details are unknown. It discusses the L and R buttons as a major feature, especially for Game Boy software compatibility. The D-pad is described as similar to the original Game Boy in shape and size, with the button layout being closer together, potentially making it easier for children to use compared to the SFC controller. The start and select buttons are standard, but the article questions the necessity of the select button for Game Boy Advance games, especially RPGs and SLGs. The screen is praised for its beauty, but glare is a concern, with a size similar to the Game Boy Color but wider. It mentions a widescreen mode for playing older Game Boy games. Finally, the CPU is noted as a powerful 32-bit processor, comparable to the Saturn and PlayStation, a significant upgrade for a handheld compared to the 16-bit WS Color and SFC. The Game Boy Advance, poised to revolutionize portable gaming, features 4-player connectivity via a link cable, with one cartridge often sufficient for multiplayer. It boasts a 15-hour battery life with 2 AA batteries, or 10 hours with a rechargeable pack. The system retains familiar A/B button placement and enhances audio with PCM stereo sound and improved sound capabilities. Official colors were unannounced, but prototypes included blue, orange, silver, and a translucent model. Developers lauded the clear screen, smooth graphics, and control input, though some noted a slightly unusual button layout. Early software was criticized for not fully leveraging the GBA's power. Market predictions are overwhelmingly positive, with expectations that the GBA will surpass the original Game Boy in sales. A comparison table outlines key specifications relative to the Game Boy Color. The Game Boy Advance launched on March 21, 2001. Delayed slightly due to LCD screen production issues, the system enjoyed significant industry support, with over 80 software companies developing games. The GBA's initial software lineup included a variety of RPGs and simulation titles, some reminiscent of the Super Famicom era, and many supporting multiplayer for up to 24 players. A survey of software developers indicated strong interest in the system. Approximately 38 titles were announced, including Mario Kart Advance, Golden Sun, and Wario Land 4. Several games were previewed with descriptions, such as F-Zero for Game Boy Advance, a high-speed racer, and Advance Wars, a war simulation game. Other highlighted games were Tactics Ogre, Fire Emblem, The Binding Blade, a horse racing title, and various Konami games. This page focuses on the upcoming Game Boy Advance and its potential impact. It highlights 2 key points: the expected software price of around 4,000 yen and the confirmed hardware price of 9,800 yen. A survey shows that 42% of people consider 4,000 yen to be the desired price for GBA games. The page also previews several upcoming games. These include Monster Breed, a monster-raising RPG by Konami; Castlevania Circle of the Moon, an action game also by Konami; Tweety and the Magical Jewels, a board game; Fire Pro Wrestling A, Super Black Bass Advance, a fishing simulation game; Hello Kitty Miracle Collection, a Hello Kitty-themed game; Matsumoto Leiji's Space Hex Site X; Mystical Travel Zero Tours, a communication RPG; and Winning Post for Game Boy Advance, a horse racing simulation game. There's also a section discussing rumors from overseas game makers developing for the GBA, mentioning titles like Doom and Rayman. The GBA's announcement at Space World is mentioned as having been well received, especially compared to Mario Kart. Finally, a table shows prices of other portable consoles for reference, including various Game Boy models, WonderSwan, Neo Geo Pocket, Game Gear, PC Engine GT, and Lynx. This page is a preview for Mario Kart Advance on the Game Boy Advance, highlighting it as the latest in the popular Mario Kart series from Nintendo. The game emphasizes its exhilarating racing experience and improved features compared to previous Super Famicom and Nintendo 64 Mario Kart games. Key features mentioned include 4-player simultaneous battles using a link cable, a fulfilling battle mode, and dynamic weather changes on the same courses, impacting gameplay. The page showcases screenshots of the game in action, including character selection and race gameplay, emphasizing the graphical capabilities of the GBA. The publisher's message expresses excitement about bringing Mario Kart to the GBA, allowing 4-player battles anytime, anywhere. They mention the game is already a highly anticipated title within GBA software, and they hope players enjoy it. They also mention that while it's a single race in 4-player mode, with 3 minutes of playtime, even waiting 1 hour to play it would be worthwhile. The article also includes a review impression, stating that while the course designs might feel somewhat like the SNES version, the speed and gameplay are improved and enjoyable. They note the addition of new elements and the ability to play anytime and anywhere on the GBA makes it a must-have for Mario Kart fans. The reviewer felt the slipstream effect was significant, and that the graphics were good with nice background scrolling, although the lack of N64-level course updates is a minor drawback, but considers it a good game overall. This page is showcasing a preview for the Game Boy Advance RPG called Golden Sun. Developed by Camelot, known for N64 titles like Mario Tennis 64 and Mario Golf 64, this RPG is about using energy to save the world. The game features a traditional RPG style, with adventure and battles. It seems to have a focus on story and puzzle elements using energy. The page highlights 2 key battle scene features. Firstly, the battle screen rotates and moves, positioning the attacking character in the foreground, creating a dynamic 3D effect in what is essentially a 2D style game. Secondly, critical hits and powerful magic trigger a zoom effect on the screen, enhancing the visual impact of these actions. The game uses an icon-based command system for battles, and energy seems to be a key component for both combat and field actions, perhaps used like magic. The game allows players to assign specific roles to buttons, such as using herbs with just a press of the A button, streamlining gameplay by removing the need to constantly access status screens. An impressions section describes the graphics as impressive and detailed, especially the battle scenes with their 2D rotating camera and magic effects. It emphasizes the readability of messages and overall enjoyment, even for long play sessions, suggesting it's a highly anticipated and promising title. This page introduces the new Rockman game, titled Rockman XE Mega Man Battle Network, for the Game Boy Advance. It's described as an RPG, with a 50% completion rate in development at the time of this magazine. The article highlights that this Rockman is set in a network world and will feature network crime. It talks about two worlds, the real world and the cyber world, which Rockman will protect. The story revolves around a 5th grade boy named Net Hikari and his Net Navi, Rockman. In the game, viruses are spreading in the network, and Rockman and Net work together to solve the mystery and defeat these viruses. The gameplay is described as action-oriented, where players collect battle chips to power up Rockman. The screenshots show battles happening within a network environment, and it's mentioned that battles are more action-based with strategy elements, rather than purely command-based. You can use bomb chips, for example, to inflict significant damage to enemies. The article includes impressions from someone who played a demo, noting the expert terminology used and the initial confusion with chip usage. They eventually got used to it and found the battle system enjoyable, even for beginners. They praised the convenient chip system, but expressed concern about the difficulty of understanding chip combinations and the overall story progression related to evil organizations and viruses in the network world. They concluded that the demo was enjoyable until the time limit ran out, and they are eager to see the final version. This page introduces Pino B's Great Adventure, an action game for the Game Boy Advance from Hudson Soft. The game features Pino B, a B-type robot, in a fast-paced adventure. The page highlights the game's smooth and speedy character movements, enabled by the flying dash system, allowing for aerial maneuvers and attacks. Screenshots show gameplay with vibrant graphics and the character in action. The game's story involves Pino B on a quest to retrieve his heart, guided by a fairy. The life reset system is also mentioned, which appears to allow players to revisit stages and influence the narrative. The opening movie is described as being full CG and visually impressive. Overall, the page promotes the game as an exhilarating action experience with beautiful graphics and engaging gameplay mechanics. This page previews the Nintendo 64 strategy game Napoleon. It highlights key gameplay features such as commanding units with named officers, where players can set movement directions, and the officers manage combat and report outcomes. Another key element is morale, which is affected by how you treat your subordinates. Rewarding them boosts morale and effectiveness in battle, while neglecting them lowers their morale. During battles, players can use a special ability by pressing the R button when near allied units, making Napoleon shout, "War!" to increase their morale, consuming SP. The game also features two-player battles via communication cable, and supports the mobile adapter GB for communication features. Intriguingly, despite being based on historical figures, the game includes monster enemies, and possibly fantasy elements like magic, suggesting encounters beyond human opponents. This page features two Nintendo 64 games. First up is Kuru Kuru Kururin, a puzzle action game with very simple controls using just the D-pad and A button, but promises surprisingly deep gameplay. The goal is to guide a rotating stick to the end, and the publisher notes that it's an action game that looks simple but is very profound. It emphasizes the time attack element, with clear times being recorded, encouraging players to improve. Gameplay tips are shown, including accelerating through narrow passages and avoiding walls which cause damage. The second game highlighted is Top Gear GT Championship, a realistic racing game. It features real-life racing teams and cars from the Japanese GT Championship. Players can customize car setups based on weather conditions and compete in races. The game also includes a national time attack ranking system, utilizing mobile phone connectivity. Screenshots show in-game racing action, car selection screens featuring teams like Denso Sard Supra and Castrol Nismo, and tracks like Suzuka Circuit. Car models mentioned include the Calsonic Skyline and Castrol NSX. The publisher emphasizes it as a fully featured handheld racing game that takes full advantage of the Game Boy Advance's capabilities. The next page previews 2 games coming to the Game Boy Advance. First up is Silent Hill, Play Novel, a visual novel adaptation of the PlayStation horror classic. Konami is releasing it as their first visual novel title, promising graphics and movies that rival the original PS version. The publisher mentions the game's scary atmosphere and jokes about not playing it before bed. The article highlights that the story is based on the PlayStation game, but with branching paths and multiple endings depending on player choices. Interestingly, you can even play as Cybele after clearing the game once. The second game previewed is Air Traffic Controller, an air traffic control simulation game popular on PC and now coming to the GBA, with enhanced graphics and original elements. The publisher emphasizes it as a genuine handheld flight simulator for aviation fans, highlighting immersive sound. The game features real-world airline tie-ins, including Northwest and Japan Airlines, with around 15 types of real airplanes appearing in the game. The article mentions managing schedules, and that even slight delays can affect other flights, emphasizing the importance of precision. The game also features weather and time changes affecting gameplay and graphics, and includes airports like Haneda, Chitose, Nagoya, and Kansai. 4 upcoming games are previewed. Hate Nasatina is an illustration puzzle game with a Teraball puzzle rule, story mode, and an autofill skill. Momotaro Matsuri is an RPG centered around Yugi challenges, featuring mini-games and a focus on self-improvement. Pocket GT Advance is a racing game with customizable cars, beautiful 3D graphics, and tuning elements. Lastly, Golfmaster AGB is a realistic golf game for the Game Boy Advance, featuring weather effects, professional golfer rivals, simple controls, and multiplayer support. This page introduces Dejiko Communication, a simulation game for the Game Boy Advance, where the energetic characters from DGI Share It come to the portable platform. In this game, you interact with Dejiko and her friends Puchiko and Usada to help them run a store, teaching Dejiko words to help her serve customers and manage the shop successfully. The aim is to deepen your relationships with these characters through communication. The publisher's message expresses their goal to create a fun and easily enjoyable game suitable for the new handheld system, intending it to be a title you can play repeatedly. The characters each have roles like register, merchandise management, and cleaning. The game features unique items in the store, and as you play, the variety of items will increase. It is also mentioned that you can have conversations with the girls during work. This page is a game preview for Dejiko no Mahjong Party, a mahjong game featuring characters from the DGI Share It anime series. The game focuses on teaching words to the characters and enjoying conversations using those words. With over 500 words to learn, there are various events throughout the in-game year, including Valentine's Day and Christmas, offering different scenarios and ways to enjoy the game. The game features vibrant graphics and special event scenes. An interview with the developers from Alpha Unit, Yoshiaki Nagayama and Yo Hanada, discusses the development on the Game Boy Advance. Nagayama mentions the GBA is easy to develop for and boasts high performance, allowing for detailed graphics and backgrounds previously impossible on the original Game Boy. Hanada highlights the ease of playing on the go and the improved graphics appealing to a wider age range, including older fans familiar with DGI Share It. They also mention the sound quality improvements on the GBA, with PCM sound sources allowing for richer audio compared to the Famicom-like tones of the past. Hanada emphasizes the importance of the NYA catchphrase in the game to create a sense of familiarity for players. Nintendo 64's upcoming lineup is highlighted in Nintendo 64 New Era. The page showcases titles releasing after September, including Perfect Dark, October, Sin and Punishment, Dance Dance Revolution, Disney Rave, Custom Robo V2, and Rockman Dash Gang of Steel Adventure, November. December features Pokémon Stadium Gold and Silver Crystal, Mario Party 3, and Banjo-Kazooie's Great Adventure 2, provisional. The magazine also previews Derby Stallion 64, a horse racing simulation. Conker's Bad Fur Day, localized by Nintendo of America, is emphasized for its mature themes. Eternal Darkness, a horror action-adventure game from Silicon Knights, is slated for an early 2001 U.S. release. Finally, Nintendo's Hiroshi Imanishi assures continued N64 software development, despite the upcoming GameCube, emphasizing its ongoing importance to Nintendo. A screenshot showcases Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. Mario Party 3 is the newest installment in the series, perfect for the new year. It features 70 new minigames and action events on board maps. And the page highlights 4 minigames: Mokuba Race, Horse Racing; Dosen Puzzle, Falling Block Puzzle; Tarzan Race, Vine Swinging; and Heiho Roulette, Roulette with Shy Guys. The dual map mode provides one-on-one battles with strategic field movement and character matchups. Screenshots hint at health indicators and character-specific attacks. Notion. Initial impressions from a game show indicate high excitement, long playtime sessions, and widespread enjoyment, with players impressed by the game's depth and variety. Overall, Mario Party 3 is presented as a must-have party game for the holiday season. This page is focused on the N64 game Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum. It highlights that this is the N64's first version of Dance Dance Revolution and features Disney characters. The page mentions it's designed to be fun for both kids and parents, with adjustable difficulty levels. The publisher's message emphasizes how cute the game is, suggesting it would be a perfect Christmas gift. Screenshots show Mickey Mouse and other Disney characters dancing in the game. The development is at 80% completion and the release date is listed as November 30th. It also notes support for 12 players and optional N64 Dance Dance Revolution dedicated controllers. This page is all about the Nintendo 64 version of Dance Dance Revolution, called Dance Dance Revolution Disney Dancing Museum. It introduces 3 game modes: a classic 1-player dance mode, a 2-player dance mode, and a brand new session mode, exclusive to the N64. The session mode divides gameplay into dance and instrument sections, suggesting a unique playstyle, perhaps using a dedicated controller. The game boasts over 20 popular Disney songs, arranged for dancing, including tracks like Mickey Mouse March, Electrical Parade, and It's a Small World, some of which are vocal songs. The page also promotes a special DDR Dance Mat controller, sold separately for 5,800 yen, featuring Disney character illustrations to enhance the Disney theme. Player impressions mention the game being easier than arcade or PlayStation versions, making it accessible and enjoyable for kids and families. The page also features pictures of people enthusiastically playing the game in what seems to be an arcade or event setting. This page is a game preview for the Nintendo 64 game Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. The game is described as a fast-paced, 3D gun action title set in near-future Tokyo. It emphasizes the innovative controls, allowing players to choose between left position and light position control schemes for aiming and movement. The preview highlights the deep story and unique characters. It introduces Saki Amemiya, the leader of a rescue group, Acho, a rescued girl, and Aaron Jo, who supports the group. The Publisher to You section mentions the game's engaging story, and the Impression section features player feedback praising the game's unique action style, character control, and visual appeal, noting that even with 10 minutes of playtime, it feels shorter due to being engrossing. Players also appreciated the visual scenes and the option for 2-player cooperative play, where one player controls movement and the other aiming. This page showcases the game system for a title where you clear stages by defeating enemies. The core gameplay loop involves progressing through stages by defeating enemies within a time limit. Stages are structured with action shooting segments and narrative sequences presented with visual storytelling. There are also boss battles where each boss has a life gauge displayed at the bottom of the screen, and depleting it to 0 clears the stage. Character actions are highlighted, explaining basic movements like using the D-pad or C buttons for movement, and L or R buttons for jumping, including a double jump. The game features 2 types of attacks: a gun attack, activated with the Z trigger, which is effective for long-range combat, and a sword attack, triggered by the B trigger, for close-quarters fighting that can also deflect enemy projectiles if timed correctly. The page describes 2 aiming types players can choose from: manual and auto. Manual aiming requires constant player adjustment, while auto-aiming locks onto enemies after an initial aim. Finally, a training mode is mentioned as a helpful feature for action game novices, designed to gradually teach players the controls and enemy engagement methods for each situation within the game, making it accessible to those less experienced with action games. The screenshots and gameplay descriptions strongly suggest this is likely for the game Sin and Punishment, Successor of the Earth. This page is a preview for Banjo-Kazooie 2, known as Banjo-Tooie in English, for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the return of the bear and bird duo for another 3D action adventure. The article mentions that this sequel comes 2 years after the original. Key features revealed include that players can now control Banjo and Kazooie separately. Mumbo Jumbo also becomes a playable character. The screenshots showcase gameplay in Mayan-themed ruins, and an encounter with a dinosaur enemy. The article emphasizes the enhanced action and puzzle elements, and confirms the return of the villain Gruntilda. It also mentions minigames and multiplayer modes are being added. An impression section notes that while similar to the first game, it is more accessible for new players due to staff teaching in-game. The game is described as a Doom-type 3D action shooter from a first-person perspective during dungeon sections. The next page showcases Mickey's Speedway USA, a racing game featuring popular Disney characters. It received a 90% rating. The article highlights the exciting races across America with Mickey and friends in cool cars. Screenshots display gameplay with Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Goofy on various tracks. The game is described as similar to Mario Kart in its system, with items playing a key role. The From Publisher to You section expresses excitement about the powerful races with Disney characters that will make you laugh and sweat. The Got it, Saw it, Touched it section gives an impression that although the number of playable characters, 6, feels a bit small, hidden characters might be present. The gameplay is easy to pick up and play, with drifting being a key skill to master. The item system is described as varied and fun, with items like balls to throw and even airplanes for attacks, emphasizing the Disney-esque playful chaos. 4-player multiplayer is also featured, promising even more fun and excitement with friends. This page is about the upcoming Pokemon Stadium 2, which is likely Pokemon Stadium 2 in English. It highlights that all Pokemon from the Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions will be available in this new Stadium game. The page emphasizes the grand scale of this new Pokesta, and how it builds on the previous game. Screenshots showcase 3D battles with Pokemon such as Feraligatr, Scizor, Meganium, and Typhlosion. It mentions new battle rules and cups like the Little Cup, where you can use newly hatched Pokemon, alongside the familiar Nintendo Cup. Beyond battles, there are new minigames for up to 4 players. Examples include a game where you count Pichu and Purin, Jigglypuff, running across the screen, and a Don Don Kafan racing game. A new mode allows you to view your own room in 3Ds, featuring plush toys you've collected in the game. The page also mentions Celebi will be usable in the game, even if players didn't get it at Space World. The next page is a preview of the action RPG Rockman Dash, known internationally as Mega Man Legends, for the N64. It highlights the game's expansive fields and large ruins to explore, noting it's a 3D polygon adventure different from the previous side-scrolling Mega Man games. The article introduces Rock as the main character, and Roll as a supporting character who provides navigation and advice. Screenshots show gameplay, including combat in a field, exploration, and finding items like Blue Reflector. There's a section titled Impression, where someone played the PS version of Rockman DSH and mentions that the N64 version seems slightly easier. They appreciate the analog stick control for 3D movement and quick turns, which are considered features of the N64 version. The reviewer wonders if there will be original elements added to the N64 version, hoping for new dungeons. The page also mentions the opening scene and introduces the Bond family, with a screenshot of them and their airship, Gieselshaft. Another screenshot shows a boss fight against Hamold at the Tower of the Sea. This preview of Dobutsu no Mori, Animal Crossing, highlights a heartwarming and healing game centered around communication with animal villagers in a forest setting. Players experience daily life through conversations, fulfilling requests, and seasonal changes impacting the environment and activities. The game features house customization, item collection, and activities like bug catching and fishing. The review praises the open-ended gameplay, charming animal interactions, and relaxing pace. While generally easy to understand, the reviewer noted potential for improvement in menu navigation, item management, and controls. Developed by Nintendo, the game was slated for a February 2001 release in Japan, emphasizing a leisurely, real-time-based experience. This page features previews of 2 Nintendo 64 games. Firstly, it highlights Custom Robo V2, an action RPG, emphasizing robot customization and battles in 3D environments. The article introduces a new 2-on-2 mode, where players can switch between partner robots during gameplay for strategic tag team battles, noting up to 4 players can join in this mode. The publisher's message emphasizes that V2 is a power-up from the original Custom Robo, enhancing the scenario mode and allowing players to use robots acquired in battles. The impression section mentions the scenario mode, the intensity of battles, and the new 2-on-2 mode, where cooperation with partners and strategic switching are key to victory. Secondly, the page previews E-Core Delta, a real-time simulation game set underwater. Players operate a special submarine and a core factory to explore the seabed, collect resources, and rescue stranded ships within a time limit. The objective is to gather resources efficiently to power up the submarine and core factory, while also defending against enemies. The publisher's message describes the game as being about rescuing ships sunk in the ocean depths and gathering resources, suggesting infinite strategic possibilities. The impression section mentions the 10-minute time limit in the Space World demo version, the radar for locating resources, and powering up the submarine and core for effective resource gathering and enemy combat. This page is focused on 2 games. The top section is for Perfect Dark, described as an adventure-filled 3D gun action game, and a successor to GoldenEye 007. It highlights the secret missions, futuristic setting resembling Blade Runner, enhanced AI, and the protagonist Joanna Dark. The game is on a 256M cartridge, set for release on October 21st, and priced at 5,800 yen. Publisher comments emphasize the game's intense action and multiplayer. An impression section praises the improved AI over GoldenEye, impressive graphics, and notes Joanna Dark's face was adjusted for the Japanese release. The bottom section previews Animal Leader, an action game with a unique shape-shifting system. The core gameplay involves devouring enemies to transform and evolve, battling dope creatures in a ruined world. It mentions the 64 MB memory expansion pack is required. Publisher comments focus on the devouring and evolution aspects. The impression section admits initial confusion with the instructions, but praises the engaging gameplay loop of transformation and the game's depth. This page introduces the Mobile System GB service for the Game Boy Color, allowing players to connect their GB Color to mobile phones for various online functionalities. The service enables users to access dedicated homepages and email, and play games with others remotely using a mobile starter cartridge. To use the service, players need to purchase a mobile adapter GB, connect it to their Game Boy Color and a compatible mobile phone, and register with the Dion Internet service. The page highlights Pokemon Crystal as a key title utilizing this mobile service, emphasizing battles against players nationwide and improved Pokemon animations. Several games are listed as compatible with the Mobile System GB service, including Game Boy Wars Pocket Tactics, Mobile Golf, Beatmania GB NetJam, Minigame Hajime Mashita. The page also mentions future support for Game Boy Advance titles, listing upcoming compatible games such as Golden Sun, Kurukuru Kurin, Napoleon, Silent Hill AGB, Golfmaster AGB, Monster Breed, Mail to Cute, Doraemon, and Mugen Kido Zero Tours. This page is dedicated to the Game Boy and its continued popularity, even with the upcoming Game Boy Advance. The main highlight is the announcement of Dragon Quest II being released on the Game Boy Color, described as a revival of the legendary RPG series and completing the Legend of Roto series on the handheld. The Game Boy version of Dragon Quest II will feature new elements, most notably the Monster Medal system. Players will collect over 150 types of medals by battling monsters, which can then be traded with friends using the Game Link cable. The article emphasizes the impressive graphics for a Game Boy title. Other highly anticipated Game Boy titles are also listed, including Pokemon Crystal, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, Donkey Kong 2001, Mario Tennis GB, Shin Megami Tensei, Devil Children, Star Ocean, Blue Sphere, Rockman X, Cyber Mission, Tales of Phantasia, Narikiri Dungeon, and Grandia, Parallel Trippers. This page is centered around the upcoming Game Boy Color game, The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons. It highlights that this is a brand new Zelda title for the Game Boy, 7 years after Link's Awakening, and part of a 2-game project, with this being the Earth chapter. The article mentions the Rod of Seasons as a key item, allowing players to change seasons and solve puzzles by altering the terrain, for example freezing rivers or growing vines. The page features screenshots showing gameplay with Link exploring dungeons and using the Rod of Seasons to change the environment. It also introduces 2 key characters, Din, a dancer, and General Gorkin. The impression section describes playing a demo where the player follows Din and explores the world of Holodrum, trying to avoid being seen by Din. Gameplay features include merging with the ground into a puddle to avoid detection and facing enemies. Finally, a GB Software new mini-catalog section briefly introduces 3 other Game Boy games: Get Top Boyo Boyon, Hamster Club Hamster Amusement Park, and Boku no Campju, My Campground, each with a short description and release date. This page is all about the exciting return of Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong 2001 for the Game Boy Color. It's presented as a powerful action game where Donkey and Diddy Kong team up to reclaim stolen bananas from the Kremlin crew across a vast jungle with over 40 courses. The article emphasizes the greatly improved graphics compared to previous games and highlights new actions and gameplay elements. Screenshots show diverse environments like caves, ancient ruins, snow-covered mountains, and underwater stages. There's also a section detailing the game's story about banana theft, and another section with impressions praising the improved visuals and new action mechanics like riding tires. At the bottom of the page, there are smaller previews for Beatmania GB Gacha Mix 2, a rhythm action game, Space Invaders X from the Invader series, Solomon, an action puzzle game, and Puzzle de Shobo, Utaman-chan, another puzzle game. A promotional message from the publisher notes that the Game Boy Color version of Super Donkey Kong boasts incredibly realistic graphics. The next page showcases a variety of Game Boy Color titles. The legendary Starfy is a comical action-adventure, where the Star Prince Stackfy explores the ocean after falling from the heavens. Monster Tactics is an RPG with a unique battle system focused on dungeon crawling and collecting monster tags. Grandia Parallel Trippers is the latest RPG in the Grandia series for Game Boy Color, featuring original characters transported to the Grandia world on a quest to return home. Command Master is an RPG utilizing virtual characters called Neos, where players input commands and use a motion sensor cartridge for battles. Ganta's Carefree Big Adventure is an adventure game featuring Ganta, a dog from pet food commercials, where players must retrieve his important picture diary. Jet to Go is a flight simulator game promising realistic air battles and routes. Daikatana GB is an action RPG where players manipulate time across different eras to overcome traps and enemies. Finally, Tales of Fantasia, Narakiri Dungeon, is presented as the newest installment in the Tales of Fantasia RPG series, emphasizing job-changing mechanics and dungeon clearing. This page previews several upcoming games. Neon Genesis Evangelion Mahjong Completion Project features Shinji playing mahjong against familiar characters and even angels in Tokyo 3. Cardcaptor Sakura. Tomoeda Elementary School Athletic Meet involves Sakura and friends competing in athletic events to earn cards. Pokémon de Panel de Pawn combines the puzzle game with Pokémon battles. Monster Zoner is an adventure game with mystery solving and monster battles. Cyborg Kuro-chan 2. White Woods' Counterattack is a side-scrolling action game starring Kuro-chan. Digico's Mahjong Party is a mahjong game with cute graphics and a story mode. True Shin Megami Tensei. Devil Children Red Book and Black Book is the latest Devil Children game, promising a deep story. Rockman X. Cyber Mission is an action game set in a cyber world. Doki Doki Legend Magical Princess Guru Guru is an RPG based on the anime. Finally, Hamster Paradise 3, Chiruli, is a hamster-raising simulation game with enhanced features. This page showcases a variety of upcoming Game Boy Color games spanning different genres. It features rhythm games like Dance Dance Revolution GB2 and Pops in Music GB Disney Tunes, alongside a shooting game called Air Force Delta. Role-playing games are also prominent with titles like Play Saga Astaria, a mecha and anime character-based RPG, Story of Seasons GB3, Boy and Girl, which is a farming simulation RPG, SpaceNet Ant Space Exploration RPG, Momotaro Densetsu 1 and 2 Compilation RPG, and Kodo Battle, a word-based battle RPG. Adventure games are represented by Kindaichi Case Files, 10th Year Summons, Super Doll Licca-chan Dress-Up Strategy, and Guru Guru to Nakayoshi. Donald Duck Daisy wo Sukue is highlighted as an action-adventure title. Simulation games include Pia Carrot, EU Koso 2.2, a romance simulation, J-League Excite Stage Tactics, a soccer management sim, and Kawaii Pet Shop Monogatari 2, a pet shop simulation. Lastly, Super Robot Pinball is featured as a miscellaneous title. Screenshots and brief descriptions accompany each game preview, giving a glimpse into their gameplay and themes. This page is an advertisement for the upcoming Nintendo 64 game Shiren the Wanderer 2. Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, which was only released in Japan. It highlights the game being released in 1 week and promotes a super thick strategy guide for the game, which is being advertised as essential for conquering the game. The page features the main character Shiren and his companion Copa. The advertisement mentions battery backup and controller pack compatibility for the game. The release date is listed as September 27th, with a price of 6,800 yen for the RPG game, which is for one player. This page is a game system explanation page for 2, Furai no Shiren 2, which was released in Japan and is part of the Mystery Dungeon series. The page details the game's core mechanics. It explains that dungeons change shape every time you enter. Items and monster locations are also randomized, ensuring fresh gameplay each time. The game uses a turn-based system where enemies only move when Shiren moves. If Shiren's HP reaches 0, the player is sent back to the beginning, losing all items but keeping the progress of the village building. The page also covers Koko Tsuvo, which is about building a town. Players collect materials in dungeons and bring them back to the village to contribute to its construction. It describes how different materials are needed for different parts of the castle, and collecting these materials allows you to rebuild and expand the village. The page highlights a workflow for building the castle, starting from Narrated village, going into dungeons to collect materials, resting at the mountain village, and finally processing materials in the mountain village and building in Narrated village. This guide offers gameplay tips for Shiren the Wanderer 2. Key strategies include maximizing diagonal movement to conserve turns and hunger, and utilizing the A button to lock movement to only diagonal directions. Foot stamping, A and B simultaneously, recovers HP but drains hunger. The Z button dash allows automatic movement towards doors and items, differing from the B dash by enabling diagonal movement and saving fullness. The guide also covers map reading, explaining icon representations for Shiren, items, monsters, stairs, traps, companions, and white marks. Finally, it provides tips for detecting invisible traps, which become visible when stepped on. Weapons can be used to trigger traps safely. The Seeing Grass item reveals all traps on a floor, and traps do not activate if there is an item in the location. This page is all about tips and tricks for playing Shiren the Wanderer 2 on the N64, a game that never made it out of Japan officially. The page starts by explaining that monsters will keep appearing endlessly on each floor, so it's best to level up your character by a couple of levels above the current floor's challenge before moving on. If you get swamped by monsters, it's suggested you simply move to a different spot on the floor to give yourself breathing room. It also advises on item management, suggesting you should aim to level up to around 2 levels higher than the floor number you are currently on to progress smoothly. There's a warning about strong winds that can blow away all your items, so when the wind starts, it's time to quickly head to the next floor. For combat, the page recommends using techniques and empty swings to secure the first attack against monsters. When dealing with multiple enemies, especially in rooms, it's smarter to fight in doorways or narrow passages, forcing monsters to approach one at a time for easier one-on-one battles. Finally, the page details what to do when Shiren gets hit with status ailments. For poison, you can use antidote herbs or just wait it out. Confusion can be cured by waiting or using a confusion healing herb. For stumbling or foot weakness, again, waiting or using a specific herb is the solution. If Shiren falls asleep, you just have to wait it out. This page provides gameplay tips for what appears to be a roguelike RPG, likely Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. It explains how to effectively use the B button, noting that pressing B near a monster automatically faces you towards it, but pressing B alone when no monster is near allows for turning in place, useful for aiming arrows. The page details using traps as weapons, such as wooden arrow traps and landmine traps to damage enemies. It also covers item usage, suggesting throwing grass or sticks at monsters for effects, and explaining how to manage items efficiently using the L button to select multiple items at once for storing or discarding, and how to use B dash to pick up items strategically. The page also highlights that items can be thrown for damage, and even when an item's uses are depleted, it can still be thrown at a monster for a final attack. This page provides tips for navigating the Nintendo 64 game Furai no Shiren 2, Oni Shirai, Shirenjo. It emphasizes careful item management, limiting dungeon entry to 11 items. Players are advised to utilize scrolls of upgrade as a last resort to save equipped gear. Increasing maximum HP and fullness by consuming herbs and rice balls at full stats is crucial for survival. The guide also details Rice Ball Transformation, a monster ability that turns items into food, though it warns of low HP risks. Cursed items, appearing in intermediate courses, require scrolls of purification for removal, and players should avoid pit traps when cursed. The page ends by advising players to be mindful of trap combinations. This page is a guide to Shootin' Mountain in Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle. It introduces Natan Village, the starting point of the adventure, and highlights various facilities available there. The guide uses a numbered map to show locations like the training ground, where players can level up before venturing out, an udon noodle shop which acts as the starting dungeon point, a warehouse for item management, a villager's house offering advice, and the entrance to the beginner course. The page gives gameplay tips such as focusing on defeating green Oni monsters for experience and using naname, diagonal, movement. It explains how to level up effectively in the training grounds and manage items in the warehouse. This page is a guide for Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. It details several key locations and gameplay elements. It starts by explaining how to access the intermediate course after completing the initial course, noting that items are unidentified and dungeons become longer. The guide then introduces the shrine, where you can meet an old man and woman who talk about charms. The old woman offers fortune-telling, revealing the location of lost pots and items. Daruma dolls at the shrine also provide charms when you discuss your troubles, offering different items based on the charm. The page then moves to the construction site, where you assemble castle parts collected from the mountain to advance the story. Here, you will encounter Riku, a boy who helps with castle building and becomes a companion. Collecting 5 castle parts triggers Himakichi's appearance at the shrine. Despite villagers believing Himakichi is a monster, he's actually resting to help people, and will later join you on your adventure. The guide also touches upon the coast, located beyond the construction site. You'll meet a man waiting there, and the coast is your gateway to Onigashima, visible in the distance, hinting at future story progression there. Finally, it mentions a mysterious small shrine on the outskirts of Natanemor. This shrine has a hole for inserting scrolls found in dungeons, suggesting a hidden secret once the correct scrolls are placed. This page dives into the villages and shops of Shiren the Wanderer 2. Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle. It highlights the mid-level village and the summit village, emphasizing how essential the shops are in these locations. In the mid-level village, you'll find the blacksmith for weapon upgrades and repairs, and a traveling merchant with a wide array of items for sale, although they can be pricey. There's also an observatory to check out your castle's progress, and a mysterious well, the purpose of which is unclear but might hold secrets. The summit village is unique, as it's where you craft castle parts in the workshop. Materials for crafting can be bought at the traveling merchant shop here. Crucially, this is the only place to create these castle components. The village also has a bank called Shutenduji Bank to safely store your gitan, money. Finally, a raft dock allows you to return to Natane Village. The page advises new players to the summit village to obtain materials right away, suggesting it's crucial for castle building. This page is about Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. It serves as a basic lecture on castle construction in the game. It details the 5 types of materials: earth, water, wood, rock, and iron, explaining they can be found in dungeons. The page highlights combining materials to create castle parts, such as the main keep, second keep, inner and outer walls, and the moat. It explains that the quality of parts varies in 3 levels: normal, good, and best, and that better materials lead to stronger parts. The guide also mentions that building a certain number of parts triggers in-game events and advances the story. Screenshots illustrate the castle building interface and gameplay. This page is a monster encyclopedia for Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, detailing enemies players will encounter in the early to mid-game. It showcases 6 monsters: Ashigaru Don, Cave Mamul, Horse Warrior, Odo Sergeant, Odo Soldier, and Gamara, each with their HP, Express, special abilities, and strategies on how to defeat them. The page also outlines the game's map progression, from the fresh green forest in levels 1 to 2, through the bamboo forest wilderness and desolate mine, culminating in the bottomless waterfall at level 7. It highlights that these monsters are from the intermediate course's first half, suggesting it's a guide to help players prepare for tougher challenges ahead in Shiren the Wanderer 2. This page is a guide for the Nintendo 64 game, Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer 2. It showcases various monsters players will encounter in the game, providing details on their HP, Express, special abilities, and strategies for defeating them. Monsters highlighted include Gaizu, known for its hypnotic abilities; Karabuzu, a weak but common enemy; Samurai Don, who reflects damage; Shioyan, who weakens Shiren's strength; Shaga, a powerful attacker; Jiraiya, who leaves landmine traps; Suikimal, who also leaves waterpot traps; and Tiger Uko, who throws and manipulates monsters. The page also features level maps from areas like Bottom of the Limestone Cave, and Naraku Mountain Gorge, showing the game's environments. A table outlines the monster distribution in the early game courses, from the Forest of New Green to the Naraku Mountain Gorge, listing the different monsters found on each floor of these locations. This page delves into the Shuten Mountain Intermediate Course area featured in the N64 title Furai no Shiren 2, Oni Shurai Shirenjo, a Japan-exclusive roguelike RPG. It showcases various monsters players will encounter in the first half of this course, each with their HP, express, special abilities, and battle strategies. Among them are the Chu Chintara, which are weaker versions of Chintara, the Nigiri Henge, who use onigiri attacks, and the Nigiri Minarai, which are weaker versions of the Nigiri Henge. Then there's the item-stealing Nusuto Dodo, the hunger-inducing Harahirinyo, the trap-laying Pikotan, and the Hitsuji Shinkan, who can weaken Siren with magic. The page also details the terrain of different dungeon floors. The Quiet Rock Cave on floors 12, advising caution against Mamoru without weapons. The intricate Rivulet Valley on floors 34, requiring careful map navigation. The Ultramarine Cave on floor 5, warning about archer attacks when health is low. And the narrow Dorok Bay on floor 67, known for its monsters with annoying special abilities. A trivia section at the bottom reminds players that thief-type monsters like Nusuto Dodo can steal items, emphasizing the need to defeat them quickly. This page is about Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle, and details various monsters that appear in the game, providing information on their HP, express, special abilities, and strategies to defeat them. Monsters highlighted include Boyar, Marjiro, Mamul, Mr. Boone, Mr. Hiriko, Yamikichi, and Enduba. The page also explains the route selection system in the game, where players can choose from beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses that connect Natanemura Village to the Summit Village. Finally, it shows a table detailing monster distribution for the first half of the intermediate course. This guide details items for a roguelike RPG, categorized as weapons, shields, grass, branches, scrolls, and treasures. Weapons like the Otospia and Katana offer unique combat advantages. Shields, such as the Scale Shield, provide defensive buffs. Grass items offer a variety of effects, including HP restoration, status ailment cures, and strategic advantages like trap detection and movement speed. Branches cause status effects on enemies or manipulate their position, while scrolls deal damage, identify items, or enhance player abilities. The Dwarf's Jar is the lone treasure item. The guide's breadth suggests a gameplay focus on strategic item utilization within dungeons. This page showcases Shiren the Wanderer 2, a Japan-exclusive Nintendo 64 game. The page is dedicated to item data, presenting a variety of in-game items and their descriptions. It covers different categories such as arrows, including wooden and iron arrows, pots, such as form-changing, piggy bank, and preserving pots, rice balls, like large, regular, giant, and first of all rice balls, rocks with rock, ogre-repelling water, tree, sand iron, soil, and their enhanced versions. Various traps are also detailed, including wooden arrow, rolling stone, equipment removal, iron arrow, poison arrow, foot binding, spring, falling rock, rotating board, Kero rain, water dripping pot, landmine, Daro hot water, bear, sleep gas, and round pole traps. Each item's effect and function are briefly explained. A special new item section highlights the clay figure, an item that affects the entire room. Screenshots illustrate the rolling stone clay figure in gameplay. The next page is an advertisement for the Mario Story Strategy Guidebook, which is the Japanese name for the game Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. This guide is advertised as the ultimate resource to perfect your adventure, promising detailed and easy-to-understand information, as expected from Dengeki. The ad highlights that the guide covers everything in the game, including finding all 160 star pieces, providing a walkthrough to reach every ending, perfecting all 50 cooking recipes, finding all the hidden letters, revealing Boo's secrets, quickly solving Koopa Bros requests, exploiting enemy weaknesses without relying on cliquette, obtaining all 80 badges, and conquering all sub-events. The guide is priced at 750 yen plus tax and is currently available for purchase. This page announces the winners of the 7th Dengeki Game 3 Grand Prize across 3 categories: Game Novel, Game Illustration, Endgame Comic. No grand prize winner was selected in any category. For the game novel category, the gold prize went to There's No Paradise in Heaven by Kei Sato, and the silver prize to Magic Warrior Tale by Rei Ichini-san. In the game illustration category, the gold prize was awarded to Secrets of the Abandoned Factory by Hanako Hattori, and the silver prize to No Title by Masaki Murioka. The game comic category's gold prize went to Sword of Ifrit Under Carnival by Kaori Yoshikawa, and the silver prize to Blade Heart by Shizuka Inagaki. The page also promotes the upcoming 8th competition and lists the prize money for each award level in the next contest, and the submission deadline of April 10, 2001. This page highlights Excitebike 64 and its top-secret ultra techniques, presented as Dodon and 4 consecutive shots. It reveals 4 key techniques. Invincible Rider Mode, activated with the password MuteKidaz, making the player invincible during races. Mirror Mode, accessed by entering Yada Yada as a password, which flips all courses. Semi-Transparent Rider Mode, enabled by Suksuk, making all riders semi-transparent, preventing collisions. And Start Dash, a technique performed at the start line by pressing the 3D stick down and the Z button simultaneously to do a wheelie and gain a speed boost. A comic strip at the bottom shows characters discussing these techniques and their effectiveness, emphasizing the excitement of the Start Dash. Finally, text clarifies that while both invincible and semi-transparent modes prevent player knockdowns from enemy riders, semi-transparency may make the game more challenging, as it also prevents the player from knocking down other riders. This page dives into some amusing tricks for N64 Mario Tennis 64. One trick shows Waluigi acting strangely if you unplug the controller and power on the console, making him appear to flee from Luigi. Another reveals a glitch where serves won't connect with the ball in doubles matches if a player is positioned too close to the net during the serve. Finally, you can make Mario strike poses while running around the court by manipulating the 3D stick while he is celebrating a point. Moving on, there are more hidden tricks unveiled for The Legend of Zelda. Majora's Mask. One trick guides you to a secret location in Clocktown, involving reversing the town, using the bunny hood, jumping into a specific hole near the shrine, and using bombs to reach a hidden area. Another trick shows how to make the Great Fairy Sword transparent by assigning it to a C button, showing the postman in Clocktown, and then talking to him. Lastly, the page mentions pink tears appearing in warp pots as a visual detail, noting that the color can also change in the sea. There's also a comic strip section titled Urawaza Out that seems to be humorously related to game tricks and tennis, possibly Mario Tennis 64. Finally, there's a note at the bottom right expressing excitement about the recently announced GameCube, with hopes for Mario and Zelda titles on the new system and personal interest in seeing Getter Love also released on it. This page highlights additional downloadable content items for the Game Boy Color game Sakura Wars GB, Geeki Hanagumi Nyutai, Sakura Taisen GBs. These items can be purchased at the in-game Ramondo shop after meeting certain conditions, mostly after the initial game clear. Items include bromides of team members, a BGM collection, a sound effects collection, a schedule table to see team member locations, event and voice modes to rewatch events, an item encyclopedia, and a cherry blossom cursor. Moving on, there's a tip for Paper Mario on the N64, detailing how to get infinite hearts in Noko Village. By circling the leftmost candy pillar, hearts will continuously appear. For Game Boy gamers, Magical Chase is featured with a secret command to unlock Stage Select. Inputting a specific directional button and B and A button sequence on the title screen will unlock a bonuses option on the Mode Select screen, allowing players to choose any stage. Lastly, it mentions that even more items are added to the Ramondo shop in Sakura Wars GB after viewing the Flower Troop's full ending. These are mini-games for each team member, described as challenging but rewarding with more points. This page is a Secret Techniques and Scoop Research Lab section, featuring cheat codes and hidden secrets for various games. For the N64 game Paper Mario, Mario Story in Japan, it reveals that if you wait on the stage title screen, you can hear nostalgic background music from the original Famicom Super Mario Bros. Game. For The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, a trick is shared to see the true face of the Deku Butler's son by looking through a crack in the wall. The page also covers Game Boy titles. For Dungeon Cyber, it details a strategy to clear dungeons quickly by placing units strategically and avoiding guardian fights. Metabots 3, Kabuto/Kuwagata version, Secret Test Mode can be accessed from the title screen by pressing Select and A, allowing you to listen to music, sound effects, and delete save data. For Love Hina Pocket, 2 cheat codes are given. One to unlock all minigames and accessories by inputting a directional sequence when the MTV logo appears, and another to get all 104 items in the game by pausing and entering a button sequence. Finally, the page promotes reader submissions for secret techniques and scoops, outlining prize categories, and how to submit via postcard or FAX to Dengeki Nintendo 64 magazine. This page, titled Present Giro, highlights several game and merchandise prizes. First up is Mystery Dungeon, Windswept Siren 2 for the N64, the latest in the Mystery Dungeon series, focusing on item synthesis and challenging monsters. Next is Pokemon de Panapon for the Game Boy, described as a deep puzzle game featuring popular Pokemon characters. Following this is Neon Genesis Evangelion Mahjong Complementary Project, also for Game Boy, a mahjong game based on the anime and considered a social phenomenon. Then there is Harvest Moon GB3, Boy Meets Girl for Game Boy, noted as a popular series enjoyed by both boys and girls. Featured next is Solomon for Game Boy Color, an action game where you create footholds using blocks, described as a clever action game revived for Game Boy Color. The page then advertises Kirby Pon Pon plush toys, described as cute yo-yo-like plushies. Also listed are designated book cards and a prize of a GB Color console, mentioning autumn evenings. Finally, there are Pocket Monster plush antenna mascots that light up, being given away as prizes. There is also a section for a baked sweet potato application announcement related to a postcard lottery. Lastly, there's an October winners announcement listing names of people who won various prizes. The page also includes a comic strip with characters from the Mystery Dungeon game. This page focuses on strategy guides for 3 Nintendo 64 games. The first section is for Mario Story, providing map and perfect data from the final stages all the way to the ending. It highlights strategies for maps 1 through 6 and features images of Mario, Bowser, and the Goomba King. Next, the page covers Koro Koro Kirby, with another guide for maps 1 through 6 and featuring gameplay images of Kirby. Finally, there is a section on Mario Tennis 64 that teaches you how to fight when you're in trouble during gameplay, showcasing Daisy and Mario playing tennis. The page is titled Strategy Master, emphasizing its focus on game. This guide provides strategies for Paper Mario N64, focusing on mid-game stages. The prologue, Stars, Mario, and Kribo, covers Kanoko Town, including a fortune teller and a black Cripio, with Curio, Goombario, as the ally and a cricking boss. Stage 1. Conquest, Nokobros Woods, involves Nokobros Woods and Kanoko Castle, using Kameki, Cooper, to solve puzzles, with Kameki, Cooper, as the ally, and Nokobros as the boss. Stage 2. Arabinta Remains Mystery, focuses on Gatsugatsu Mountain and Arabinta Remains, Dry Ruins, featuring Paletta, Paracari, and Carmen. Stage 3. Fujinomi Dagobon, includes Dagobon Castle and Kanoko Town, with Lesraisa, Lady Bow, and Dagobon's Heart. Stage 4. Sudden Attack, Toy Box, covers Kanoko Town and Heiho's Toy Box, using Akarin, Watt, and Shogun Heiho. Stage 5. Southern Sea Janbol Island, takes place in jungle, using Oppuku, Sushi, and Fire Pakun. And Information Corner notes allies can perform preemptive strikes, such as Kameki's Shell Throw. This page is a strategy guide walkthrough for Stage 6 of Paper Mario, titled Flowers and Clouds. The walkthrough uses action charts to guide players through Flowerland and the Cloud area, providing step-by-step instructions. It highlights key actions, such as talking to characters like Hanako, Yuri, and Barbara, using items like bean seeds and colored water, and navigating through areas like the Flowerland Garden and Kino Town Underground to obtain items such as the Ultra Boots. The guide details a boss battle with Jonathan, after which Pokapai becomes a companion. A hot info section mentions a special encounter in Flowerland 8, where players can find a shining Bungie-san enemy to gain extra star points. This page is a strategy guide for the boss Osmo from the Nintendo 64 game Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards. It details Osmo's attacks and weaknesses, noting that when Osmo takes damage, it releases smaller cloud enemies called Kogumo. Osmo also has the ability to inhale these Kogumo to recover HP, The guide recommends using all-out attacks to defeat Kogumo when they appear. It also mentions that when Osmo begins to charge up, its next attack will be a Thunder-type attack, dealing 10 to 12 damage. Players are advised to hide behind objects like Lesalesa's Sugatori to avoid this attack, as Acarin cannot damage Osmo or Kogumo. The page also features a map of Flowerland, showing various numbered areas and locations within the game, such as Flowerland 1 to 19, with names like Entrance, Happy Flower, Beanstalk Seed, and Delicious Water. It highlights connections between different areas and points of interest within the Flowerland stages. There's also a tip about defeating an enemy named Kirameku Panzi-san. This page is a walkthrough guide for Stage 7 of Paper Mario. It is titled, To the Edge of the Land, and provides action charts to guide players through various locations. The guide covers Samusami Village, Samusami Snowfield, Valley of Starbirth, and Crystal Shrine. It gives step-by-step instructions on how to progress, such as speaking to villagers, using items, and navigating environments. Chart 1 to 7 focuses on solving a murder case in Samusami Village, involving finding clues, speaking to villagers, and obtaining a key. Chart 18 to 20 guides players through the Crystal Shrine, explaining how to break ice walls, navigate hidden paths, and ultimately obtain a star stone. The guide emphasizes using the tornado jump ability to break ice, and provides tips on combat and puzzle solving within the game. It also highlights character level ups and strategic use of companions like Kameki. The next page is a strategy guide for the Crystal Palace area in Yoshi's Story. The page features a map of the Crystal Palace split into 17 rooms, showing connections between them. Instructions detail how to navigate puzzles within the Crystal Palace, specifically in rooms 6, 18, and 32. Tips include using Pinky's explosion ability to activate rotating doors, and manipulating stone statues to move Sekiklizo creatures onto carpets. Annotations on the map mark points of interest with symbols and room numbers. Items like keys and Namakura Cyber are marked on the map too. This page is a strategy guide for the boss Paralleller in Super Mario RPG. It details Paralleller's attacks, which include option attacks, Ice Beam, and Blizzard. The guide advises to eliminate the options when Paralleller uses them, and notes that Paralleller splits into 3 bodies when its HP falls below 35. It suggests using items like Fire Flower and Sparkling Dust for effective overall attacks, and notes that continuous single-target attacks are less effective against the main body after it splits. The page also shows a dungeon map of the Crystal Palace area, leading through various numbered rooms, with rooms 27 and 31 highlighted as containing a chest and a key item called Shinden Key, respectively. Room 19 is noted to contain a Sankai item. At the bottom, there is a tip section mentioning snowmen and items like Legendary Muffler and Wonderful Bucket being placed at the entrance of Samuisa Village's Canopio House, possibly related to a quest or side story in the game. This page is a strategy guide for Stage 8, titled Showdown, Great Demon King Bowser, focusing on the final areas of what is likely Super Mario 64. The guide provides action charts for navigating Koopa Castle, Kino Castle, Mario's House, and Kanoko Town. It highlights using a companion's abilities to cool lava, raising water levels to use Obuku for movement, and solving Bowser's Face Quiz. The Bowser Quiz section includes questions and answers related to in-game elements such as Nokoko, Red Heiho, and Kuribo. There's also a warning to be careful of Hammer Bros and their 5 consecutive throws. A screenshot shows gameplay footage in Bowser's Castle with Mario battling enemies. This page shows a map for Koopa Castle, Part 1, related to Mario's story, which is likely Paper Mario on the N64. The map visually guides players through Koopa Castle levels numbered from 1 to 15. Tips are provided in text boxes, like Chart 36, explaining how to use switches and platforms in a Koopa Castle level, possibly level 4 based on map placement, despite text saying 41. Chart 38 gives directions for navigating exits in Koopa Castle levels. Again, likely levels within the map range, not 4,348 as stated, suggesting a correct path of up, right, up, left, down, left, and then up to proceed. There is also information about leveling up through battles. This page is a strategy guide for a Bowser boss fight in what appears to be Paper Mario. It details Bowser's stats in both his normal and powered-up forms, outlining his HP, defense, and attack power for various attacks like Claw, Hip Attack, and Fire Breath. The guide advises using the Star Rod, to weaken Bowser's power-ups, and to use the Star Flash ability. The page also presents a map of Bowser's Castle, labeled Bowser Castle Map Part 1, showing the progression through different areas of the castle represented by numbered Bowser Castle sections. It suggests using status effects in the battle, and mentions items called Mini Mini Fumi and Nemura's Fumi, which can shrink or put Bowser to sleep, making the fight easier. The guide advises players to recover HP and FP after the battle, in preparation for the final confrontation later. The next page is a strategy guide for Paper Mario, known as Mario Story in Japan, focusing on Bowser's Castle. It shows a map of Bowser's Castle levels, numbered from 33 to 52, leading to the Bowser boss fight at level 52, indicated as To Bowser Battle! The guide details Bowser's stats in two forms, normal and power-up. In his normal state, Bowser has 99 HP and 2 defense, with attacks like Claw, Hip Attack, Fire, and Thunder, with attack power ranging from 8 to 10. In his powered-up state, he has 99 HP but is invincible, with stronger attacks like Claw, Hip Attack, Fire, and Thunder, each with attack power of 16 to 20. His special attack, Overall Attack, has an attack power of 3 to 4. The guide recommends using the Star Rod item against Bowser, and suggests the Jumping Charge S and Continuous Jump combination as effective strategies, highlighting the importance of action command timing. It also recommends equipping the Tsujin badge to aid in action commands, particularly for continuous jump. Peach's Peach Flash is also mentioned as a useful ability after an event. The recommended partner character is Akari. This page is a guide for collecting all 81 star pieces obtainable in the field in Paper Mario for the Nintendo 64. It details various locations such as Goomba Village, Toad Town, Shooting Star Summit, Pleasant Path, Gusty Gulch, Koopa Village, and Toad Town tunnels. For each location, it specifies the conditions required and the method to acquire the star piece, often involving actions like using Kurin Jump or hitting trees with a hammer after fulfilling certain prerequisites, sometimes requiring obtaining specific items or advancing the story to a certain point. This guide offers strategies for Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64, detailing how to find hidden items and trigger events across various locations. Key areas covered include Kinoko Town Underground, Gatsu Mountain, Kara Desert and Town, Arabine Ruins, Forest of Illusion, Boo's Mansion, Poo Poo Hill, Dagobah Castle, Shy Guy's Toy Box, The Jungle, Yoshi Village, Guts Volcano, and Flowerland. The guide often utilizes the spin jump ability to uncover secrets, particularly in areas like Gatsu Mountain, Boo's Mansion, and Flowerland. Specific tips range from obtaining the Fool's Stone in Kinoko Town to finding items using spin jump on carpets, in flower beds, and near specific landmarks in each environment. Other tips include exchanging letters, finding hidden areas, and utilizing specific items like Puku to access secret locations. This page is focused on Paper Mario. It details how to collect star pieces in the game, specifically through two methods. The first is the Nokojiro event, which has 20 parts in total. By completing this event at intervals of the 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 20th time, you can earn star pieces. The page lists all 20 stages of the Nokojiro event and the items you receive for each stage. It also explains how to get the red pot in the 20th Nokojiro event by purchasing items in a specific order at the shop in Karakara Town. The second method is the Haidna Bug Quiz, which consists of 64 questions and answers, all related to Paper Mario, and successfully answering these quizzes also rewards you with star pieces in the game. The page shows a list of 64 quiz questions and their corresponding answers covering various aspects of the game. This page is dedicated to Kathy's recipes in Paper Mario. It explains that Kathy can cook dishes from items Mario brings her, with a total of 50 recipes available in the game. The page details single-ingredient recipes available initially, then progresses to combination recipes unlocked later in the game. The article lists various dishes, their required ingredients, and the effects they have in the game, such as HP and FP recovery or status effects. Examples include dishes like hot soup, apple pie, and many more mushroom and honey-based recipes, demonstrating the diverse cooking system in Paper Mario. The article mentions obtaining the cooking book item to access more complex combination recipes, and shows screenshots of Mario interacting with Kathy in her kitchen to prepare dishes. The next page focuses on the Game Boy game Kirby Tilt and Tumble, originally titled Korokoro Kirby in Japan. This is a guide for level 1, providing a map walkthrough of stages 11 through 14 and the boss stage. The guide highlights key gameplay tips, such as earning 1-ups by using bumpers to become invincible through consecutive hits, locating red stars and extra lives in stage 12 by following map arrows, using bumper-induced invincibility to overcome obstacles, and manipulating Noboto blocks by pushing floor pegs. The page also introduces the level 1 boss, Mega Uter, a ground-based enemy that can be defeated by jumping and hitting its eye 3 times. Basic techniques are mentioned, emphasizing bumper usage, consecutive hits, and the benefits of invincibility. The next page is a strategy guide for level 2 of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It highlights key points in the level to help players. Point 1 describes how to get a blue star by continuous jumping in a hole and destroying bumpers to reach a star below. Point 2 explains how to get a red star in a jump hole where arrows rotate. Players need to time jumps carefully to land on a lift. Point 3 points out a safe route where only one Gulder enemy appears, advising players to follow the arrows on the map. Point 4 tells players they can get a 1 UP by defeating enemies in the air and using air bullets to hit them 5 times. Point 5 explains how to acquire another red star by using a hidden jump hole under the right bumper. Finally, the BOSS section covers the Megaton battle, stating that the boss is similar to the level 1 boss, Megaton. Players should aim for the eye to damage it, and be aware of the green floor during the ground battle as it shifts when Megaton lands. Hiding under the gold netting is advised to avoid falling attacks. This page is a level 3 strategy guide for a Kirby game, likely Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. The guide is broken down into several key points to help players navigate the level. Point 1 advises players that Wispy Woods in level 6 can warp you to this level, suggesting you might want to revisit. Point 2 warns about enemies holding red stars, advising players to quickly move to the jump hole to collect them. Point 3 cautions about crumbling floors, suggesting players move quickly and jump across water to avoid them unnecessarily collapsing. Point 4 mentions that some 3 UP items might be in difficult to reach slots, and states that it's okay to ignore them if they are too troublesome. Point 5 describes moving on clouds, stating they move right initially and then left, with the red star being nearby after dismounting on the left side. Finally, the BOSS section details the fight against Krakow, explaining that it attacks while moving right and then comes closer to the player to attack directly. It advises to dodge by moving back and forth, and to defeat it quickly by using air bullets, launching 6 at a time. It also warns players to be careful not to fall during the fight, and to take the wind to their advantage for maneuverability. This page is a detailed strategy guide for level 4 of Kirby's Dream Land 2 on the Game Boy. It showcases maps for stages 41, 42, 43, and 44, as well as the boss stage. Highlighted points sections give tips for gameplay, including how to find shortcuts for red stars, earn bonus points, utilize invincibility to proceed, obtain a blue star, and execute continuous jumps. A dedicated section explains the strategy for the boss, Megaton, describing it as a ground battle and advising caution in the sandy terrain. A general gameplay tip encourages players to maximize their lives by using bumpers. The text at the top clarifies that in sandy areas, Kirby will sink after 10 seconds, and jumping in the sand can reveal hidden items. The next page is a strategy guide for level 5 of Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. It highlights important points within the level, showing maps of each section from 51 to 54 and a boss area. The guide points out key elements. 1. Red Star Acquisition. Explains how to use bumpers to get red stars in stage 51. Large Bumper 1 and 2. Warns about disappearing floors and the danger of hitting bumpers without invincibility. Suggests jumping over bumpers for safety in stage 52 and 53. Goldie Caution. Advises caution with Goldies in stage 53, which are enemies that need to be avoided by timing jumps between clouds. 4. Wind 5. Red Star Acquisition. Details how to get red stars using yellow blocks by waiting for enemies to jump and then using the reaction to reach higher areas in stage 54-5. Boss Megaton. Ground Battle. Describes the boss fight against Megaton, noting the slippery floor and the need to jump and evade attacks. It mentions a safe spot in the picture, but warns that advanced techniques might be needed. This page is a guide for level 6, suggesting it's easier than previous courses, but warns that stars are hidden in tricky spots. It highlights 5 key points across stages 61 to 64. Firstly, it advises using air bullets against flying enemies to increase your life count. Secondly, finding a yellow star in level 62 allows you to warp to level 8 via a bonus stage featuring Wispy Woods. Thirdly, in level 63, a red star can be obtained by defeating a balloon that appears from a castle. Fourthly, in level 64, ghosts and passages will block your way, requiring quick movement to pass. Lastly, another red star in level 64 can be found in a dash panel area, requiring strategic timing to reach it. The page concludes with boss strategy for Krako, an aerial battle where Krako attacks with mini Kirbys. It recommends attacking with air bullets, while slightly leading Krako's movements, noting that Krako's speed increases, making the fight harder. This page is focused on Mario Tennis 64, providing gameplay advice and strategies. The article aims to help players improve their skills by understanding basic techniques and systems. It presents common player questions about improving their game, such as how to hit faster balls, deal with difficult serves, and ensure serves go in. Tips are given in response to these questions, including using body movement for faster balls, adjusting positioning for serve returns, and focusing on timing for serves. The page features screenshots of Mario Tennis 64 gameplay to visually illustrate the points being made. The tips are designed to help players understand the game mechanics and improve their overall performance in Mario Tennis 64. The next page focuses on doubles tennis in Mario Tennis on the N64, providing advice on mastering techniques and strategies. It starts by explaining how to effectively use charge shots, noting they are powerful but take time to charge, which can be a weakness. The page suggests that characters who take longer to charge have more power, while faster charging characters are weaker. It then moves on to how to utilize tricky type characters, emphasizing their ability to hit tricky shots from the front court, but warns against using only tricky types as a pair, as it can weaken their overall strength in a stroke battle. Another section addresses tactics when both opponents are positioned at the back of the court, recommending aiming for the center, as it becomes a vulnerable spot. Finally, it suggests using drop shots and slices to disrupt the opponent's formation, especially by targeting one player and forcing the other to move and cover the open space. The page emphasizes breaking the opponent's formation using drop shots and slices, and aiming for the center court when both opponents are back to create openings and secure points in Mario Tennis doubles matches. This page announces the results of a ring shot contest, which received a huge 890 entries. The top 30 players are listed in a ranking table by score and prefecture, with Nakano Yosuke from Hyogo Prefecture taking first place with a score of 665 points. The page congratulates Nakano and mentions that all top 30 players scored over 500 points, highlighting the fierce competition. There's a section with ring shot tips, advising players to aim for consecutive ring hits to get high scores, and noting that from 400 points onwards, luck with ring placement becomes important. Another section discusses the surprising number of female participants, around 15% of the total, with ages ranging widely and locations from Hokkaido to Kagoshima. The page also presents pie charts showing the age distribution of participants, the gender ratio, and the distribution of scores, indicating a wide range of ages and scores in the contest. This contest is likely for the ring shot mode in the Nintendo 64 game Mario Tennis. This page announces the top players in a Mario Tennis 64 competition, categorized by age and gender. They received so many entries that they couldn't ignore them. The editorial team apologizes because they hadn't explicitly asked for gender in the applications and had to make assumptions based on names. The rankings are listed for over 30s, women only, and under 10s, including names, prefectures, and scores. The page also promotes the upcoming Game Boy version of Mario Tennis GB, which is linked to the N64 version. It mentions that players could try out the game at Space World, and that the story mode in the GB version features unique characters different from those seen before. The page reports on the Mario Tennis 64 National Tournament held at Space World. The matches were doubles, and the level of play was high. The presenters and commentators were the Takahashi brothers, and they were impressed by the high level of skill. It appears strong pairs used pata-pata effectively, and matches were decided by volleys and ground strokes. This page highlights the upcoming Autumn Game Show 2000, with a strong emphasis on Game Boy Advance software. Konami is showcasing a variety of GBA titles, including tentative titles like Castlevania, Circle of the Moon, Konami YY Racing Advance, Golfmaster AGB, Silent Hill AGB, alongside other games like Star Communicator, Mail to Cute, Monster Breed, and Hate na Satena. Konami will also feature their N64 games, including Castlevania 64. Hudson is also present at the game show, promoting GBA titles such as Hate na Satena and Morita Shogi Advance, and hosting a Peach Taro Festival stage event. They are also planning a talk event for the Game Boy Advance version of Grandia. The page features a special topic on Konami and Universal Pictures collaborating to release games based on movies. 2 Game Boy games are highlighted: The Mummy, Hamunaptra, an action title set in the Lost City where you can play as Rick, Evelyn, or Jonathan solving puzzles and fighting enemies, and The Grinch, an action game for Game Boy Color set to be released on November 22nd, where the goal is to steal presents based on the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Finally, there's event information about the Hudson booth at the game show, mentioning a talk event about the GBA version of Grandia on the 23rd, hosted by the president of Game Arts. This page covers various Nintendo 64 news and announcements. A Shiren the Wanderer 2 campaign offers a special plate to the top 1,000 fastest players. A Lawson Store exclusive Shiren the Wanderer 2 snack includes a Game Power password. The Mario Artist F-Zero X Course Grand Prix winners are announced. N64 software sales from July 31st to September 3rd are topped by Kirby 64, Ogre Battle 64, and Mario Story. The most anticipated N64 games for August include Shiren the Wanderer 2 and Pokemon Stadium. Advertisements highlight Mario-themed tennis goods and a book release by Tezuka Teacher. Finally, the True Megami Tensei Devil Children anime is set to begin broadcasting in October. This page is a special feature celebrating the release of 2, which is Shiren the Wanderer 2, Oni Invasion, Shiren Castle. It's a humorous comic strip showcasing characters and gameplay elements from the game. The comic revolves around Shiren and Koppa discussing their objective, which seems to be related to building a castle and creating a harem. Other characters such as Kira, a scantily clad woman, Rin-Pusan, a green monster, and Mariko-kun, Asuka, are featured in various scenarios. The comic depicts Shiren and his companions in typical game situations, encountering enemies, strategizing with items, and facing perilous moments described as a big pinch. It's a lighthearted and comedic way to promote the release of Shiren the Wanderer 2. This page features a humorous manga strip illustrating a game-like scenario with characters encountering traps and comical situations. The characters navigate a dangerous area filled with pitfalls, encountering enemies and using items like Dokudami grass for health recovery and fire-breathing grass, which turns out to be a trap. The manga ends with a message about being careful with traps. The page also announces the upcoming release of Nintendo's next-generation console, the GameCube, and discusses potential changes to the magazine's name in anticipation. The Shioban's Nest section at the bottom of the page contains reader submissions, including illustrations and messages from fans. This page is an advertisement for the Nintendo 64 game, Mystery Dungeon 2, Shiren the Wanderer. It highlights the game's release date as September 27th and the standard retail price. The page showcases characters Shiren and another girl, and includes screenshots of the gameplay. It also mentions related books like the official guidebook and Monster Seal Encyclopedia, as well as an early purchase campaign and a website for more information. This page is an advertisement for the Game Boy Color game, Cardcaptor Sakura, Tomoeda Elementary School Grand Sports Day. This game, scheduled for release on October 6th at a price of 4,280 yen before tax, features 12 minigames themed around a school sports day, including events like large ball rolling and 100 meters races. A notable feature is that Sakura-chan speaks using a PCM voice system. This page is an advertisement for 2 Mahjong games. The first game is Dejiko's Mahjong Party for the Game Boy Color, scheduled for release in October. It boasts features such as free battles, knockout battles, communication battles, and a beginner's guide, promising fun Mahjong gameplay with Dejiko characters. The advert highlights that there are many titles to enjoy with Dejiko. The second game advertised is Neon Genesis Evangelion Mahjong Complement Plan, also for Game Boy Color, scheduled for release on September 29th. This game includes a scenario mode, Apostle 13 battle, free battle, communication battle, and trading cards as a bonus. It is priced at 3,980 yen and comes with special card Dustmasters, 3 cards, as a pre-order bonus. A screenshot from Neon Genesis Evangelion Mahjong Complement Plan shows Gendo Ikari with the text, "Gendo, we don't have time for this." The website. The website for King Records and Starchild is also mentioned for more information.